Coming up on Global Business, the 2023 spring meetings of the World Bank Group and International Monetary Fund will take place in Washington, D.C. from today. We'll give you a rundown on the likely outcomes from the meetings. Demand for credit loans in China has increased steadily during the first quarter of the year, and we find out what is behind the growing trend. Connecting the world's top brands with China's super-sized consumer market, and we'll bring you the latest from the 3rd China International Consumer Products Expo in Haikou, Hainan Province. Good evening from Beijing and welcome to this edition of Global Business on CGTN. The 2023 spring meetings of the World Bank Group and International Monetary Fund are set to commence in Washington later today. For more, let's cross over to our correspondent John Terrett in New York. Hi there, John. Tell us, what are the likely outcomes from this year's meetings?
Hey there, Lily. Well, I am in New York and these meetings take place in Washington, D.C., which is about a 4-hour drive away from here. But I want to stress how important these meetings are. I mean, they really are. They often get overlooked by much of the media, not us on CGTN, of course, but many of them do. And it's sad because these meetings discuss things like global economic growth, debt, the issues of poverty, climate change, stability, all that sort of thing. So there's a lot going on in Washington between now and the end of the week. The whole of Washington, D.C.'s central business district has been closed down. The World Bank, which deals mainly with poverty, and the IMF, which looks at stability around the world. Their two buildings are side by side in Washington, D.C., really not very far from the White House. But of course, these meetings at a very complex time for the global economic agenda. Now, the key to these meetings, or at least the hope for these meetings, is fairly ambitious reform and also fundraising for various projects that they want to do around the world. But of course, the meeting is always overshadowed by something. In the last couple of years, it's been COVID, for example. Well, now, of course, it's inflation, it's Ukraine, and now, in the last couple of weeks, it's the banking worries as well, particularly with the regional banks here in America, but the fear that this will somehow spread to banks around the world. Now, Kristalina Georgieva, who's the managing director of the International Monetary Fund, says that global growth is now historically weak, and indeed the forecast for 2023 is 3% or below, and that's the lowest forecast that we've had since the 1990s. So that's going back, what, 30, 40 years, something like that. She says 90% of all the advanced economic nations in the world are now slowing down, and interestingly enough, India and China are two countries that are pointed out as being responsible for pretty much half all the global growth in the coming 12 months. We'll get updates on that, by the way, in the next 24 hours. We should hear on the World Economic Outlook, which is one report, and also the Global Financial Stability Report, which is a second one. We'll hear about those, as I say, in the course of the rest of Monday and also on Tuesday. But the big issue really overshadowing everything will be banking after the collapse of Silicon Valley Bank in San Francisco and in New York of Signature Bank. So this is a worry that has not been presented before at these spring meetings. The US Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen is seeking reform, particularly of the World Bank. She wants to push very hard this week to make it more responsive, if you will, to global climate change issues. And talking of global climate change issues, David Malpass, who is the president of the World Bank, who was appointed in 2019 and nominated by the Trump administration, he will be stepping down. He's already announced he will step down. This will be his last major event. He'll go in June, and that is amid concerns and conflict about his climate change credentials. So there's a lot happening between now and Saturday. Lily?
Great stuff. Yeah, a lot to watch out for. Thank you so much, John Terrett, for us in New York. Let's get back to Asia. Today is the first day at work for the new Bank of Japan Governor Kazuo Ueda. Governor Ueda told reporters that he will do the utmost to achieve the 2% inflation target under his term. Being the first central bank governor from academia, Ueda pledged to continue monetary easing and take more time to see if wage growth can be sustained to hold price levels up. The new governor is likely to face a bumpy road ahead as he pointed to a slowing global economy and lingering uncertainties in the financial markets. Let's move on to China, where the latest data released by the China Association of Small and Medium-Sized Enterprises has indicated that the country's small and medium-sized enterprises saw rapid growth during the first 3 months of the year. China's SME Development Index stood at 89.3 in the first quarter. That is up 1.3 points from the fourth quarter of last year. It was also the highest growth increase since the fourth quarter of 2020. And among the 8 indices were the hotel and catering industry, transportation industry, and information transition software industry witnessed the highest gains. A new survey by the People's Bank of China showed that during the first quarter of the year, China's overall loan demand index rose almost 20 percentage points from the previous quarter, with new credit loans in March expected to come in at between 3 and 4 trillion yuan. Our reporter Zhang Shixuan finds out what is behind the growing demand.
You can see signs of its business in a wide variety of corporates and industries, as it offers office automation solutions. Shanghai-based SmartChip has seen significant growth during the past 3 years, with its R&D investment now approaching 100 million yuan. Credit loans have lent a big helping hand to that growth. Its line of credit at the Bank of Communications is now more than 50 million yuan, a 5-fold increase from just 3 years ago. As demand for its products continues to pick up, so does its need for capital.
This year, all industries are facing pressure from the economic environment. So we may face slower cash flows, and we need to make advance fundraising plans for that. Previously, we would receive payments in 3 months or 6 months from regular clients. This year, we expect that could be extended by another few months.
The company plans to apply for credit loans totaling between 100 and 150 million yuan this year, which it estimates will help revenue more than double from last year's figure.
We are planning for an IPO, so the following few years will be a golden period for our development. This year is the first year of our IPO preparations, and we will finalize arrangements over the next 3 years.
And SmartChip is far from the only new tech company looking for loans. As of the end of last month, the Bank of Communications Shanghai branch saw its mid to long-term credit loan balance for science and technology companies topping 18.8 billion yuan. Companies are showing increasing interest in mid and long-term loans.
Some companies now have a demand for business expansion as they recover, so they need loans. And some large companies faced slower supply and cash flows during the pandemic, and their settlement cycle could be longer. So they need more money for a longer period. In the past, these companies would ask for 6-month loans, but now there is more demand for loans lasting for 1 to 3 years.
Credit loans have performed well since the beginning of the year, especially corporate mid to long-term loans. During the first 2 months of the year, they accounted for almost 70% of all new loans, topping 4.6 trillion yuan. And the total demand may yet to be fully unleashed. At the end of last month, China announced its first cut this year in the amount of cash that banks must hold as reserves to bolster the economic growth. A 0.25 percentage points cut in reserve requirement ratio for financial institutions beginning March 27th.
That has brought a lift to the economic recovery, and also to our loan issuance. For we banks, the impact of the RRR cut is obvious. We now have more money to support the companies.
Last Friday, Shanghai financial authorities announced that the city will see its inclusive loan interest rate lowered by the end of the year, which is expected to bring its overall inclusive loan balance to more than 1.1 trillion yuan. Zhang Shixuan, ICS for CGTN, Shanghai.
And starting today, China's IPO issuance system will have fully transitioned to a registration-based mechanism. But the new system has been tested in China for years, and its official implementation across all stock exchanges on the main and growth boards is expected to bring significant changes to China's capital markets. Our reporter Chen Tong has more.
A milestone has arrived in China's capital market, the overall implementation of a registration-based IPO program. On April 10th, the first batch of companies were listed in Shanghai and Shenzhen via the registration-based system. What is registration-based IPO system? It's not a new idea and has been widely used in Western countries. Before the implementation of such a new system, companies in China had to receive approval from the Securities Regulatory Commission in order to get listed. The application involves a long list of procedures and usually take months or even years to complete. But now, under the new system, it will be up to the stock exchanges to determine whether the company meets its IPO issuance criteria and information disclosure requirements based on the information the company provides in its application. Each board also has different requirements and profit thresholds for companies.
I think one very big difference compared to the two systems is that this system actually induces lots of volatilities. But also the good side is the different companies, actually their fundamentals are different. So probably the correlations within the industry will be getting lower.
The reform is not a sudden move in China. The registration-based IPO system was first tested in Shanghai stock market in 2018, then on Shenzhen's China Export and Beijing Stock Exchange.
The reform of the registration-based IPO system is set to bring all-around and fundamental changes to the market. The system has been through the market test and achieved remarkable results in key areas. The implementation of the system will help the capital market better serve the real economy, especially in scientific and technological innovation. Market vitality and resilience will also significantly increase.
The overall implementation of such system in all of the markets means China is determined to optimize the financing procedures for companies in need of financing.
It's very friendly to the SMEs because their time is very limited and also their resources is very limited compared with the big companies. So this mechanism actually now allows them to increase their funding channels.
Taking a look at the first 10 companies listed via the new system, we see that they are technology firms, energy makers, and pharmaceutical companies. The registration-based mechanism makes IPO issuance more market-driven and, more importantly, supports the real economy by making financing channels more fluid.
And still to come here on Global Business. Connecting the world's top brands with China's super-sized consumer market, we bring you the latest from the 3rd China International Consumer Products Expo in Haikou, Hainan Province.
Exploring the latest trends in the consumer sector, the brands most preferred by customers, and the stories behind the names. Building a closer connection between a super-sized consumer market and global brands. All eyes are on the 3rd China International Consumer Products Expo in Haikou, as leading brands gather to share insights and discover new opportunities from a China opening wider to the world. Join our special coverage of the event as we bring you an in-depth look at cutting-edge consumer trends that will shape a better life for the future. Only on CGTN.
Welcome back. The opening ceremony of the 3rd China International Consumer Products Expo was held this morning. It is the first major national level exhibition after the optimization of the country's COVID-19 response last year. Well, the event is taking place in the city of Haikou on the island province of Hainan from April the 11th to the 15th. CGTN's Tang Bo reports.
Compared with previous years, the 3rd China International Consumer Products Expo will see a larger exhibition area and more exhibitors and buyers.
This year's expo brings together more international and domestic high-quality consumer goods resources. With more than 3,100 brands from over 60 countries and regions participating. Among them, more than 300 brands will debut their new products. The scale of the expo, the level of internationalization, and the impact of the brands will be further enhanced.
The government work report from this year's 2 sessions highlighted the recovery and expansion of consumption. According to Hainan Provincial Bureau of International Economic Development, one of the organizers of the trade event, the expo will focus on optimizing consumption, supply, and improving consumer confidence.
This year, we aim to use this Hainan Expo as a major platform to encourage the import of high-quality products from foreign markets, and we also would hold many events during the Hainan Expo to help people, to encourage people to buy more high-quality products.
Over 100 events will be held, including forums, promotional events, and matchmaking sessions. More than 300 brands will launch over 1,000 new products. To provide exhibitors with potential buyers, organizers have released an exhibitor list and collected buyers' needs in advance.
Experts say as the construction of the Hainan Free Trade Port enters its 5th year, the expo is expected to introduce more cooperation opportunities for the tropical island, advance high standard opening up, and share China's massive market opportunities with the world. Tang Bo, CGTN, Haikou, Hainan Province.
So what exactly is the Hainan Expo and what is its role in boosting the consumption of high-quality goods in China's economic recovery? Take a look.
Hainan Expo, or China International Consumer Products Expo, is China's first national-level exhibition with consumer goods as its main theme. It's currently the largest consumer goods exhibition in the Asia-Pacific region. The expo is held once a year in Haikou, the capital city of China's southern Hainan province. It was part of the plan suggested by China's State Council in 2020 to boost the development of Hainan Free Trade Port. Consumers can enjoy tax exemption policies when they purchase overseas products imported and sold during the exhibition. In recent years, it has been serving as a global high-end product exhibition business platform, bringing together leading brands from around the world and creating global business opportunities for Chinese and international premium consumer products. With a theme of shared open opportunities to create a better life, the expo will continue focusing on high quality and new products this year. Spread over an area of 100,000 square meters, the expo is set to welcome more than 50,000 buyers and professional visitors. Over 3,100 brands from 65 countries and regions are expected to ink cooperation deals via official events, new products launches, and some self-forums. With China easing COVID-19 measures and deepening high-level opening up, the expo will continue to serve as a display and trading platform for global high-quality consumer goods and provide impetus for global economic recovery.
As one of the earliest international partners in China's automotive industry, Volkswagen Group is showcasing its many imported car brands at the 3rd China International Consumer Products Expo. My colleague Kate Kuei interviewed Stefan Mecha, CEO of the Volkswagen passenger cars brand in China earlier today, and he talked about his expectations from the expo and on Volkswagen's outlook on the Chinese market this year.
Stefan, great to have you today with us. What are you expecting out of this time's expo?
So the most important thing that we are expecting is that we have some customers, consumers coming at our booth and see the great products that we display and also engage with the people here around, because we believe the format that the government has pulled off the ground is very successful, very good. And that's why we want to participate.
I'm actually very curious. Well, on one hand, you need to still sell the ICE for cash flow, for the revenue purpose. On the other hand, you understand the future market is definitely NEV or BEV dominated. How do you balance these two sales in this interim period?
I think the world is never either or, but you mentioned it to me perfectly, because we need to have a stronghold of our ICEs for different reasons. First of all, it's good, it's a profitable business, but more important so because, as I said, we have been 14 years in China, we are well known, we are very entrenched in the culture of China. We have created mobility in China, in the tier 3, 4, 5 cities, so we are really deeply rooted in China. And that's why it's important, not everybody can buy a BEV. This is very prominent in tier 1 cities, perhaps tier 2 cities, but we need to cater for the whole country. So this is a very stronghold that we need to keep, because this is also what our brand stands for. And the transformation, you will see we have 5 cars now, 5 electric cars on the market, and 1 to come next week. We're going to launch the ID.7. So, and this is the key focus, to bring more electric vehicles to the market. And also Audi, they have the e-tron family, and bring more cars to the market. So that's the way to go. Because by 2030, we believe that by and large, most of our portfolio will be electric vehicles.
Right. I noticed that you also have a JV with Horizon on chip making side.
Yep.
What was the consideration?
Yeah. So if we take a step back, I think what we want. We are in China for 40 years, and we have learned over this period that localization is absolutely success critical. And even more so today, when much more R&D capabilities, software capabilities need to come to China. So, and we have different entities that do this. So our R&D capability, and when we look at CARIAD for our software part, we felt that it would be a great idea to extend our footprint here in China. And Horizon Robotics is a tech company, very successful, and we felt to create a JV with Horizon is really a great plan. We are now in the implementation, and of course they will work on our autonomous driving stack, and it starts very successful.
The price war in China market, especially in the EV sector, or you call it BEV sector, is very obvious. How do you plan to respond to the price war on the China market?
Yeah, I think there is always different angles to it. So first of all is at the end, the consumers decide on the price because they decide at which price they buy. Right. So, and when we look at this from our side, I think the first thing that we need to do is we need to be very, very tough on the cost, because at the end of the day, we need to produce the cars at the lowest cost. And here, in particular for the BEVs, the battery cost is the biggest part. Right. So we need to be very clear on our raw material strategy, how we reduce the cost. And the world is simple, I would say. The raw material prices, okay, they have been on the rise. Lithium now came back a little bit, but we want to localize much more our raw material sourcing. So I think that's a great asset. And then the rest, through our scales, we are very confident to bring the prices down.
In the meantime, Lamborghini, a luxury car brand owned by Volkswagen, is also showcasing its supercars at 3rd Hainan Expo. And this year also marks the 60th anniversary of the brand. Our reporter Wang Tianyu caught up with Konstantin Shisev, managing director of Lamborghini for the Chinese mainland, Hong Kong and Macau, to find out the brand's plans in China.
Well, first of all, it's great to be here. And as you said, this is the first major exhibition after the release of the measures. Also, this exhibition has a special guest, which is Italy. And of course, Lamborghini being a true Italian brand, we are happy to be here. And on top of this, Hainan is a very special place in China. And you know, for us, China is one of the fast developing markets. But it looks like that Hainan is going to be, within China, one of the even faster developing regions. So that's why it's very interesting for us to be here.
As Lamborghini's second largest market in the world, how does Chinese market different from other places?
Well, first of all, is a very dynamic and it's changing very, very fast. Also, it's very young market for us. Although we've been here on this market for almost 20 years and we've been very, very successful on this market, we see the interesting trends. First of all, our average age of customers in China is lower than in the rest of the world. It's just about 35 years. And that's great for us because we would like to be the young brand. And basically, our customers here are the customers we will have in the rest of the world a few years down the line. So that's why it's very important for us to look at the trends that we see on this market.
Lamborghini sales in China did not seem affected much by the COVID-19 in the past 3 years. What are the reasons for this?
Well, first of all, of course, this is our strong model range. We've been launching each year different models. Last year we launched the successor of Urus, the world first super SUV. And second reason is our marketing activities that are tailor-made for China, which are resulting into a very strong order bank that we have within China. And last but not least, we are constantly developing our dealer network, our coverage across China. So just to give you an idea, last year we've opened 2 more new dealers. All this combined is giving us the solid ground for a good performance and also for the continuous growth.
Let's take a look at some other business headlines that we're tracking at this hour from around the world. Retail sales of passenger vehicles reached 1.6 million units in March in China. That is up 0.3% on a yearly basis. And that's thanks to the higher export capacity. China exported 290,000 passenger cars in March, up 172% from a year earlier. New energy vehicles accounted for 24% of the total exports. India's consumer inflation likely slowed to 5.8% in March, falling below the Reserve Bank of India's tolerance limit for the first time this year, a Reuters poll showed. Food inflation, which accounts for nearly half of the total consumer price basket, is expected to have slowed, but fuel prices are likely to push it up again in the near term. Thailand's central bank expects the country's economy to grow by 3.6% this year. The country's central bank governor has said that fiscal and monetary policies should prioritize stability, and there is no need to stimulate the economy at the moment. Speaking of inflation, food prices in the UK are rising at their fastest rate in 45 years, and that means traditional Easter treats are costing more than ever. Chocolate eggs, hot cross buns, cakes, they all have one thing in common: sugar. Poor harvests in key sugar-growing regions are driving prices even higher, meaning that those with a sweet tooth will need deeper pockets. Our correspondent John Bever reports.
Easter is big business in the UK. A recent study found that the majority of people now associate the holiday with chocolate rather than religion. But it comes at a price. The cost of sugar is at a 6-year high. Brownie Things supply bakeries and sell direct to customers through market stalls and online. Easter is one of their busiest times, but they've been battling with high sugar, transport and energy costs for months.
Our gluten-free flour that we use has doubled in price. Sugar has gone up considerably, butter has gone up considerably. These are all things that are out of our control. And we could either sit here and moan and complain and, shut shop, or we can adapt and innovate and find ways to survive, to still bring really good quality brownies to our customers at an affordable price.
Easter treats are more than just chocolate. Hot cross buns are sold in their millions in the UK alone. But, like everything else, they've been hit by spiralling prices. In the UK, the annual food inflation rate is now above 18%. But it's chocolate that dominates the holiday.
The first hollow chocolate Easter egg was made here in Bristol in southwest England in 1873. A lot has changed in 150 years, but despite the rising prices, they remain as popular as ever. Between 80 and 90 million Easter eggs will be eaten this year in the UK.
Poor sugarcane harvests last year have reduced the amount of sugar available globally, pushing up prices. But there are hopes that it's temporary. Harvests in the past few months have been more successful, which should reduce prices in future. But for now, businesses are having to do whatever they can to keep costs down without sacrificing quality.
We actually have the means here to grind our own sugar. So we can turn it from granulated sugar into something that's even a greater quality than caster sugar, which is a huge saving in price that way. So necessity is the mother of invention, and we've certainly been as inventive as we can be, yeah.
UK children will eat an average of 8 chocolate eggs each of differing sizes in the coming days. The cost of those eggs, though, might leave a sour taste in the mouth of parents. John Beaver, CGTN, Bristol.
And with that, I'm closing out this edition of Global Business here on CGTN. Thanks for being with us. I'm Lily Lu in Beijing. Thanks for watching. Bye for now.